Hello, and welcome to another episode of Seeds of Flourishing. So, one thing I wanted to talk about in this episode is the 7 habits of highly effective people, as you can see from the thumbnail. But before I do that, I want to set it up as I do all episodes, is how did the 7 habits of highly effective people come to be one of my seeds of flourishing? So it goes back to a time in the 2000s when I was teaching on a business program. Now my background initially is in science, in I suppose biochemical techniques and microbiology. I then moved into computing because I was already using a lot of computers in that role, and my postgrad is in effectively computer science. I've got a postgraduate in a joint one which brings together computer techniques and manufacturing techniques under a single banner. I've got a joint postgraduate diploma in computing and manufacturing. But there was a course at East Surrey College which ran, 2 courses which ran into each other, a certificate in management studies and a diploma in management studies, and they're often seen as a lead into an MBA. And they'd put an ad out in the paper looking for what they call a sessional lecturer, I think was the time. And at that point in time, you didn't have to have teacher training. I subsequently had to do in-job teacher training, and I now have a entry-level teacher training qualification or teaching qualification. But at that point, as long as you had the appropriate academic qualification at that level, so the CMS is undergrad, the DMS you're starting to get into the area of postgrad level qualification, so you have to have some sort of postgrad to teach the course. And they were looking for someone to do the more information systems side of the teaching, so they were looking for candidates who had more of a information systems, information technology background, and someone that was also working day to day in that role. At that point, I had my own business. I was doing training in IT and information systems, and also going round and helping sort of fix mainly home users, but also small businesses fix their sort of computer issues in lots of different ways. So it was naturally for me to just give this a try. I'd always wanted to, do teaching, and I had taught people up to that point, but not within a collegial environment. So yeah, I ended up teaching at East Surrey College. Here's a map just showing south of England. You may have seen this before when I've done other episodes. So here's Brighton, here's East Surrey College, here's London. I lived sort of around here at the time. So, I used to just drive up once a week and spend all day there teaching on this program. So yeah, the CMS leads into the DMS. On the CMS, I taught information management. On the DS, I taught management information systems, but it was an integrated approach, meaning that a large portion of it was about information or management information systems from the human perspective. There was very little hard like computer science in it. Most of it was more a more integrated approach to it. And that was the result of me doing a course with the Open University as part of my postgrad about implementation of systems, and it was taught as a social sciences unit, and that really opened my mind to soft systems and various other things, which made humans the focus of information management or information technology rather than computers, which I felt was more appropriate in management studies. So that was my angle on that. Anyway, while I was teaching them my first year, as I taught there over a number of years in the 2000s. I met a lot of very motivated managers, and it was good because you got a nice exchange of, life stories. And I would actually write my own course materials, which I would give out at the start of the year as a course booklet. And in it, I would reference various books and other things. And in the course of 1 week talking about books that inspired us, we got on to the subject of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a book I hadn't read at the time. I'd been aware of it, and I never really got around to reading it. So one of the students in the DMS, I think it was, put me onto this book and said, "Oh, you should check this out. I think you'd find it really interesting, and you could maybe use some of it in the course," because I was always up for modifying the course, even though it stuck to a fairly rigid series of outcomes and requirements that were put out by the particular institution that this was accredited by at the time. There was a degree of flexibility in there. And often I'd be asked to teach at the end of the course. I'd often have a 3 to 4 week program where the college asked me to draw down from my experience of working in information management and do sort of 3 or 4 add-on courses that weren't assessed, or sessions that weren't assessed, but that the students would find useful. So we were always looking for different things to talk about, like I'd maybe do a session on Excel use, within businesses, or we talk about things like Johari Window, or other methods to do with sort of personal development, those sort of things. Stuff that I'd, again, discovered through working with a number of different clients, because I had a parallel business in computer consultancy that was running in parallel with me lecturing. And so, it put me onto this 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Now, at the time, I was driving around an awful lot, so it was hard for me to read the book. And also, I think I was lining myself up to do additional professional development with the Open University, so I had a lot going on. And so I found the audiobook for this, and I would say, even if you've read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and you haven't done it yet, check out Stephen Covey's audiobook that he recorded when he was alive. It's excellent. Really complements the book, and just it's fantastic to hear him reading his own words, his own stories. He's got a lot of the stories in there that he covers in the book that he goes through. Obviously, it's slightly reduced from the book, and some of the broader things in it he skips over. So if you're not familiar at all with the 7 habits, the 7 habits are: be proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first, think win-win, seek first to understand, then to be understood, synergize, and then finally sharpen the saw. So I'm not going to go into the heavy details of the book, because this is more of just a story of how it became a seed of flourishing for me. But definitely, at least worthwhile reading the Wikipedia article at the very least, and just acquaint you with the work of Stephen Covey. Now, it was another just side thing here. One of the reasons, like I said, I was driving around, and that was the reasons why I chose the audiobook as a way of effectively understanding the book. At the time, specifically, I was driving up to central London, up to a place called the Evening Oldfield Unit. I was doing IT training on behalf of a management consultancy firm, and they would always have interesting clients from the non-profit making area. And so I'd get to go and do work for a really sort of diverse set of clients, from whose origins were from all over the world. So it was interesting to go up to here, which is an organisation that acts as a training resource for non-profit making organisations and the like, and actually do some, train the trainer. I think I was trying to show them how best to use Access, because they'd gone in as a complete, without knowing anything about Access, and were trying to build client databases for their own use, and had got themselves in a real pickle where they kept adding fields for everything, and they didn't really understand how relational databases worked. And so I sort of, got them pointed in the right direction and gave them a few pointers. But I regularly, so this was in the course of probably about several weeks. I was driving from the south of England up the motorway and then down the Westway into London, and I have memories of driving down the Westway listening to 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it was funny because I had a few clients of my own along the Westway, not many. And that's the other reason I remember it, because I'm sort of driving by and, trying desperately not to, or to remember that I don't need to turn off. I'm actually on my way to central London. You get up to this area here and it's really interesting, sort of driving past, I think Madame Tussauds is somewhere along here as well. So yeah, it's pretty heavy going, but I used to drive fairly early in the morning. On a separate note, nothing to do with the book, if you ever find yourself in London, you probably need an afternoon to do this. We did a really interesting walk the last time we were in London, which is from Camden Market to here, near the Angel Islington, along this canal path. You can actually walk all the way from here to here. There's a lovely canal path. And when you get to here, you have to, this actually goes under the road here. You can't go under this bit, or you couldn't at the time. But there's a way through here that gets you back onto here. So yeah, it's really cool. And you can see, there's relatively close stations. So I think we were staying somewhere. You can see these are all the sort of places, favourite places to visit in London. And we were staying somewhere near one of the big stations. I can't remember exactly. And so we would sort of go out on day trips to various places. So we'd sort of travelled up to Camden Market, spent the morning in Camden Market, and then spent the afternoon walking down here because we had a reading we were attending at the Union Chapel. This has gigs at it. It's a pretty interesting venue to go to. And then once we'd gone there, just went up to the nearest tube station and then just went back to the hotel. That was a great day, actually. So yeah, if you get a chance and you're in London, even if you just check out part of this, it's there's various places you can sort of get off of the canal back onto one of the roads and then find the nearest tube station. Yeah, so there we go. Check out the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's time well spent. Thanks for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in the next episode.